I swear, this administration is one of the most exhausting things ever. But what I find very interesting that Donald Trump threatened to take away Rosie O'Donnell's citizenship. Now, no matter how you feel about an individual, if you were born and raised in the United States and Rosie O'Donnell is well into her 60s, I want to say, threatening to take away their citizenship is kind of terrifying if you really think about it. From what I can tell, she hasn't done anything wrong. She hasn't been convicted of anything. It's just criticisms that she has made of Trump, some that have been proven true, some that he has obviously lied about. But here we are, they had a simple dispute. And that's just an overview of what the video or this live is going to be about. It means talking about Rosie O'Donnell and Donald Trump. This is a little background for me. I personally don't know too much about Rosie O'Donnell besides for the fact she was in one of my favorite movies, which is A League of Their Own, and I believe she was on The View, and that's all I could think of right now. And I think she had like a show too, the Rosie O'Donnell show, but I'm not the biggest fan of hers. Her comedy kind of fell short for me. Now she was great in A League of Their Own, but overall, she's kind of like Amy Schumer to me, kind of overrated. But she's here, but she's an American. And she's an American who actually cares. Here's the thing I always loved about America. We should be able to have a difference of opinion, and we go with the majority, and we just live our lives. We may not agree with it, but there's a decision of the people, and here we go. However, like most people, they are upset about the whole entire Texas flood, and people are saying that you should not make this political when it actually is political. Everything is political until it isn't. And even when it isn't, it still is. People voted for things that happened in Texas, whether you want to admit it or not. But here's the thing I'm going to say about this. This really is more about Donald Trump and his ego being hurt from what I feel like. And the reason I feel that way, Rosie O'Donnell made some comments about Donald Trump a long time ago. Let's go ahead and hear some of those comments right quick. That was the wrong thing. I will go over that here in a few. Let me go ahead and get that turned off. And here we go.
Brilliant. And there he is, hair looping, going, everyone deserves a second chance. And I'm going to give her a second chance. This hair is perfect for that. Your hair is perfect. Listen, he annoys me on a multitude of levels. He's the moral authority. Left the first wife, had an affair. Left the second wife, had an affair. Had kids both times, but he's the moral compass for 20-year-olds in America. Donald, sit and spin, my friend. I don't enjoy him. No. Brilliant.
Now, granted, those comments were pretty extreme if you want to say that, but at the exact same time, that was her opinion, and that was over almost 19 years ago at this point. You would think Donald Trump would have let it go, but he hasn't, and that's what started a feud between those two. Donald Trump at the time back then was known for having a pretty good sense of humor. It doesn't seem like anymore. Anyways, let's continue with Rosie O'Donnell and the comments she made more recently. And the comments she made recently, I think it was sparked the response of Trump.
And what a horror story in Texas.
And I took this from her TikTok page. I put the comment or her page in the top right-hand corner, Rosie O'Donnell. Now, when I took a look at her TikTok page, almost every single upload she has is 10 minutes. I just snipped about 2 minutes and 30 seconds from her video that caused a reaction, I believe. I think this is what really made Donald Trump respond the way he did.
The flash floods in Texas, the Guadalupe River, 51 missing, 51 dead, more missing. Children at a camp. And when the president got all of the early warning systems and the weathering forecast abilities of the government, these are the results that we're going to start to see on a daily basis because he's put this country in so much danger.
And you know what? Whether you like to admit it or not, that is very true. We were already having issues with weather and early warning systems and things of that nature because we're in July now, so almost a year ago, whenever Biden and Kamala was in office and we had all those horrible storms that destroyed North Carolina and Florida, and just to not invest more into early warning systems does seem kind of irresponsible. and putting American citizens last. But let's continue to see what she has to say.
By his horrible, horrible decisions and this ridiculously immoral bill that he just signed into law. As Republicans cheered, people will as a result, and they've started already. Shame on him. Shame on every GOP sycophant who's listening and following the disastrous decisions of this mentally incapacitated POTUS.
Now, I'm not going to keep pausing too much, but I do remember that Donald Trump is starting to show the exact same signs of Joe Biden whenever he was starting to be on the mental decline. You can watch interviews, and you'll see there'll be times where Trump seems like he's not really fully there. He knows where he's at or what he's saying, and he's more prompted. He's more like a mascot now, I feel, instead of his own individual man. When he was in his first term, whether you love saying Trump, whether you loved or hated Trump, Trump was Trump. He's not the same Trump from almost 8 years ago.
Hard to believe. Some people on this TikTok and on Instagram say, well, you moved, why do you care? I moved so I wouldn't have a nervous breakdown. I moved so that I could be away from it and have some type of shield from the intimacy of it, because I don't do well in world crises. I don't, starting with the Vietnam War when I was a small child. I don't do well. I know myself enough to know when he got reelected, it was time to go. And all that you needed to propel your movement was reading Project 2025, and sadly, not many Americans did that. And if they did, they didn't believe it. Why?
And here's my thing about rich people making comments on politics in general. It doesn't impact you like it will impact me or my next door neighbor or the person at the soup kitchen or even the average employee. You have the money and the resources to go ahead and lead the country and live your own life and live a nice, comfortable life while criticizing America. Would I have left America? Probably not if I had her money. But at the exact same time, if I had her money and resources, I wouldn't need to. The impact wouldn't be as great on me. And if anything, I'll probably benefit a lot more from the changes that have been made. That's just the reality of it. People vote in their own best interest. They rarely vote for the best interests of the people or the general public of the country, right? So when I hear her talk and she's not here in America, how can I take her seriously? And that's for anybody that leaves the country. Why are you worried about here? You chose to leave. If you leave, you ran. I don't think your opinion should hold as much weight personally. You can't criticize something and try to change something from afar.
Because the president was lying, saying he knew nothing about it and he wasn't going to follow it. And he's followed every single thing that they said he was going to do.
But yet, I didn't hear her really campaign too much. Not really campaign, or just come out and speak on it too much going up against Project 2025, right? Now, I made plenty of videos of Donald Trump during the whole entire campaign run and all the way up to the election, to election night. And I addressed the whole entire 2025 thing before. And did I believe him when he said he didn't know about it? He heard of it, but he didn't know anything about it. Of course I didn't believe him. Nobody with any sense really believed that statement. However, people still voted for the way they wanted to, because for one, he sold them a lie, because he's a businessman. Business people lie. They sell. That's just what it is. They believed it. He won, and people are suffering the consequences, and a lot of people have buyer's remorse. She's sitting in front like, I warned y'all, I left, y'all could deal with it. Then once it's dealt with, baby, y'all come back. And I don't like that mindset. You don't sit here and see a fight that's supposed to be involving you and you run and leave. If you love this country, you need to stay and help fight. You need to stay and help the next person that's going to rise up. Because ideally, I say ideally because things have been going crazy, you cannot really campaign and support the next elected official, the next president of the United States from another country. It just doesn't work that way. You're a lot easier to be censored from another country. And let me just touch on this just a little bit. The main reason Kamala Harris lost, in my opinion, I would say this sound blue in my face, she ran a horrible campaign. You don't get a nomination and don't speak for, I think, 39 days or almost 40 days. You don't make any speeches. You don't do anything. And she wasn't too busy to do so. There were plenty of other VPs that had ran and had other, more important things to do, right? She was just lazy. And then when she did finally start speaking, she didn't say anything until Tim Walz came involved, which showed that she was kind of cowardly. And that's just the truth. I'm not saying these things because I supported and voted for Trump. I did it. But I am saying these things is I am a very realistic person. She did not deserve to win because she did not act like she wanted to win. She assumed she was entitled to it. And it wasn't until the last minute she actually started speaking and showing her voice where it would have got people on her side. If she would have acted that way towards the end, in the beginning, as soon as she got the nomination, she would probably be president right now, right? Even with all the tempering and the help for Elon Musk that he gave Trump, she just didn't run a good campaign, and that really sucks, right? Now, do I think that we will still be giving money to Israel, all that other kind of stuff? Yes. Will we still have the things that frustrated us? Keep in mind, what frustrated people so much to vote for Trump, because they were so frustrated with all these migrants coming in and committing crimes that was all publicized all over the news, and they weren't doing anything about it. They were getting food stamps, free housing, while regular American citizens weren't getting anything. We were just sitting here suffering and seeing these people who just came here getting the benefits. That's what made Trump win. He hyper-focused on that. And instead of calmly addressing it and saying what she would do better to change or anything like that, she just stayed quiet. And I even said it now, people are so hanging on to Kamala for some reason. Let's be real here. If you remember from back in the day, Kamala was not a good debater. She was not a good candidate, right? She was given the VP spot. She didn't earn it. It's not like back in the day and when I say back in the day, like in the 1800s, where it was the two main candidates that went against each other, and whoever lost was the VP. So I think it was like the Whig Party back then, or was the Whig Party? Well, the time around Lincoln, I think the Whig Party was gone by that time. Anyways, whenever you had like the Republican Party and let's say the Democratic Party, the Democratic Political Party, and they went against each other, the president would be the person who won, the vice president, or the person that lost. It was something that you earned. It wasn't like somebody just picked this, hey, I want this person to be my VP. You had to work for it. She didn't have to work for it. She was largely alone, and she lost in the polls really early. I can really talk about Kamala for a very long time, but people are acting like that she's the miracle answer and she's automatically going to get the nomination again, which really sucks because I hate to say it, if you really think about it and pay attention, she still hasn't said anything to show that she wants to be president. Now, you see Tim Walz out there talking, giving speeches, and all this other kind of stuff. It's like Tim Walz got the bite of, hey, I could really be in this office. Let me do what I can and keep my name out there, keep myself relevant. So whenever we do have the Democratic National Convention, I'll be the top runner there. You don't have that with Kamala, right? And that's what sucks. People are putting so much support behind somebody that's not putting any effort in anything. Hell, you hear more about Jasmine Crockett and AOC than you ever hear about Kamala making any comments or trying to do anything to help or to go against Trump in any way, shape, or form. And that's why she lost. She's lazy. And that's this. If you want to beat the next Republican Party, it needs to start now. You can't wait until 2027 and start trying to campaign the last few months in November just to try to make sure you get to 2028. No, it doesn't work that way. You got to start now because they're doing so much right now that it needs to start now. That's just my opinion on it. But anyways, I kind of got off the tire right there. Let me just go ahead and continue to play.
The GOP, the Republicans, the Heritage Foundation. It is disastrous for the United States, our country. Still an American citizen and always will be. I also am getting my Irish citizenship. Very lucky to have the ability to have both. But if you think I'm not going to care anymore about the United States, about politics there, where my children, 4 of my 5 children are, you're wrong. And if you don't want to hear what I have to say, you can unfollow, because I understand I'm too much for some people. But I gotta be me.
Now, I was kind of curious why she chose the whole entire Irish citizenship thing, so I kind of looked into it a little bit. And when I say a little bit, I mean a very little bit. So her father was an immigrant from Ireland, and her mother is an Irish American woman. So okay, so that makes sense now why she went to Ireland and tried to get her dual citizenship there. Cool, I get that. But like with everything else, Trump didn't like that too much. And let's see here. Give me one moment. Let's not do that. Let's do this. Okay. All right. So Donald Trump wrote, because of the fact that Rosie O'Donnell is not in the best interest of our great country, I am giving serious consideration to taking away her citizenship. This is a threat to humanity and should remain in the wonderful country of Ireland if they want to have her. God bless America. That was written this morning, 7/12/25, 9:42 a.m., and that is very terrifying. Just because you don't like somebody does not mean you should sit here and threaten to take away their citizenship. That does not give you the right to do so. The President of the United States does not have the right to do so. And the unfortunate part is that they are giving more and more power to Donald Trump. You know what kind of this reminds me of? Darth Sidious in the Empire and how he came to power. You know, in episode 3 of Star Wars, if you're a Star Wars fan, you saw how Padme said this is how democracy ends in thunderous applause. And you saw how people signed that bill recently, the big, beautiful bill recently with thunderous applause from Republicans and everything else. It's just kind of crazy. So I looked into it and I was like, can the president take away somebody's citizenship? That doesn't make any sense. If you're a natural born citizen and you've been an American citizen for more than 50 years, that should be an impossibility. You have no right. I mean, hell, even if there are people who are committed horrific crimes that are still here as citizens. A person who made some ugly comments about you almost 20 years ago is she is a threat to humanity. A person that made ugly comments about you is a threat to humanity. Let's be real here. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of Rosie O'Donnell. I don't follow her. I don't know her that well. But a threat to humanity? Now, that's just some crazy bullshit. I shouldn't have said bullshit, but that's just some craziness on the next level. So I looked into it. And I remember how they were saying they were trying to get the 14th Amendment repealed, right? And I was like, okay. And they're trying to get it repealed mainly, supposedly, because of, the immigrants and, the kids being born here, income parents, yada, 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 right? But let's go over this. The 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause. All persons or all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction, therefore, are citizens of the United States and the state within they reside. No authority to revert birthright citizenship. The president does not have the power to unilaterally strip citizenship from a native born in America. Only voluntary revocation or fraud can affect citizenship, meaning that you became citizen by fraudulent means, which does happen. The U.S. government can revoke nationalized citizenship in rare cases, mainly fraudulent, but it cannot revoke birthright citizenship because of the 14th Amendment. And these are things that have gone on. There have been a case of citizenship with the United States versus Wacom Arc back in 1998 and things of that nature. So no, he cannot take away her birthright citizenship. However, though, if they do revoke the 14th Amendment and they use a justification because they're trying to get rid of anchor babies and people who are here that should, quote unquote, shouldn't be here, then yes, that is a really big issue. That is something terrifying because that will mean at that point in time, anybody that makes any comments about Donald Trump that he does not like, he can go ahead and say, you know what, you're not a citizen, you are gone, bye. Now, Rosie, she's trying to be a dual citizen in Ireland, which I'm pretty sure that's going to happen for her because she's rich and a celebrity. However, though, what about the average person? What about the average person who goes to a protest and he just lock them up and say, hey, you're not a citizen anymore because you protest? Bye. Well, where are we going to go? I don't know. We're just going to drop you in the middle of the ocean. I know that sounds extreme, but supposing we have a history of doing it before, right? So whenever you hear somebody that speak out against the president, and keep in mind, the most hated president that I can remember was Barack Obama, right? Now, he did some things I loved. He did some things I hated. I remember back in the day, I even said, there is no way in hell I would have voted for Obama in 2008. And the only reason I did, because John McCain chose Sarah Palin as his running mate. I thought John McCain was a true American hero. Still do. Especially the story of him getting captured and tortured and making sure all his men left first, but he stayed behind and he suffered permanent injuries because of the torture that he went through. That was something deep. And whenever you heard him speak and people would make comments about Barack Obama that were untrue and lies, he would stick up for him. He'd be like, no, that's not true. He's a true American man. Yada, yada, yada. John McCain had integrity. But what worried me was he was older. And when he chose Sarah Palin, for the life of me, I don't know why he chose Sarah Palin as his running mate. But whenever he chose Sarah Palin, I was like, this woman's dumb. This woman's an idiot. I do not want this woman to be president of the United States. That terrified me because he did have a lot of injuries. He was older. And I was worried that, hey, if he didn't make it all the way through, then we'll have this woman who, I'm not going to get into her Russia comments, but yeah, it's just, and technically I was kind of right because he did pass. If he would have had a second term, she would have been made president. So he did pass. I can't remember the exact year he passed. Let me look that up right quick. Let's see, when did John make? Okay, so August 25th, 2018. All right, so he wouldn't pass the second term, but yeah. Anyways, where was I going with this? I kind of got off topic again. Anyways, so Rosie O'Donnell responded. So let's see what her response was. All right, here we go. Hey, Donald, you rattled again? 18 years later, and I still live rent-free in that collapsing brain of yours. You call me a threat to humanity, but I'm everything you fear. A loud woman, a queer woman, a mother who tells the truth, an American who got out of the country before you set it ablaze. You build walls. I build life for my autistic kid in a country where decency still exists. You crave loyalty. I teach my children to question power. You sell fear on golf courses. I make art about surviving trauma. You lie, you steal, you degrade. I nature, I curate, I possess. You are everything that is wrong with America, and now everything you hate about it was still going right with it. You want to revoke my citizenship? Go ahead and try. King Joffrey with the tangerine spray tan. I'm not yours to silence. I never was. Rosie, with the Irish flag. Now, do I think things have gotten out of hand between these two? Yes, 100%. There is no reason for an American president to threaten a U.S. citizen of their citizenship. It doesn't make any sense. And I don't know. Sometimes I feel like that just because I disagree, you know what? I'm just going to say this. I've been an independent for a very long time. And that's mainly because that I hope that one day we will have an actual third party. And, you know, you always say be careful what you ask for because now Elon is trying to throw in money to make a third party. And that's not what I wanted. not an American party produced by Elon, a South African immigrant that's wanting to really do this for his own self-interest, right? I want a third party, an independent party that can take the values of both sides and realize that, we can be great if we take a little from both sides. Yeah, at this point, I'm just kind of rambling, but that's all I had to really say when it comes to the Donald Trump and Rosie O'Donnell. I think that is a very terrifying thing for a president to sit here and say, hey, I want to take away your citizenship all because I don't like what you say. That's dumb. That's just straight up dumb. I miss the days to where we can disagree with each other and still respect each other. That was what's so beautiful about politics at one point in time. And granted, I've always known our politics has always been for sale. It's been for purchase. I've known that since I was a kid. I remember when I first had I voted when I was 18 years old. I wasn't necessarily asked, I questioned why do we have U.S. senators and the House of Representatives in office for 20, 30, 40 years? I mean, hell, Mitch McConnell has been there for 41 years. Why? I've always been in support of term limits when it comes to our Senate and U.S. Congress. I've been in support of money out of politics again, so you can actually get real people in there. It shouldn't be some type of adherent seat. I personally don't think that if you've been in office for 10 years and you die in office, it should automatically go to your spouse. That happened recently too. So I don't know. Maybe I'll make another video or do another live just talking about politics in general and my views on it. But you guys tell me what you think about this whole entire thing. Now, you may not like Rosie O'Donnell, but as an American citizen, something like this should terrify you. We should be able to criticize our U.S. presidents. And you know what? The criticism she made in that video wasn't even while he was in office. I think he was still doing The Apprentice during that time frame she was making fun of him. So he was just a public figure. And he took that pain and carried it over to where he had a position of power to take away somebody's citizenship. Like, what? That doesn't make any earthly sense. And if he can do that to a U.S. citizen who was born and raised here, who's been here for over 50 years, what does that mean for everybody else? I'm not talking about for the U.S. immigrants, right? I'm talking about for the people that are just like, you have a lot of people that come here from other countries, Nigerians, the Trinidadians, the Haitians, the Jamaicans, the Puerto Ricans, part of the U.S., Dominican Republic, et cetera, et cetera. What does it mean for those people? Right? I don't know. Your choices and your votes have consequences. Everything is political. So yes, you could feel sorry for Texas, but there's nothing wrong with criticizing that. Hey, maybe if we voted different, the tragedy in Texas would have happened. Anyways, you guys tell me your opinions on this. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be back soon.